Are you ready for this sickness? Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to Economics and Comics. I'm Bill, host of Economics and Comics, and this is Joel from GoneWithTheTwins.com. If you want to check out written reviews on every movie you could possibly think of, go to GoneWithTheTwins.com and check it out. He is a real-life film critic, and I'm a real-life me, sicko. So anyway, I got a chance to see Gemini Man with my friend Joel and his brother, which is interesting because they are twins.
Yeah.
And
more about that later.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But I'm going to go ahead and let Joel kind of lead here and the whole storyboard and everything like that, and just kind of take a step back, and we'll get into discussion a little bit. So go ahead, Joel.
Yeah. Well, I do want to give a brief synopsis, but I don't want to. Are we doing spoilers?
Yeah,
or,
do it.
Okay. So I'm not sure what the trailers showed, but Will Smith plays Henry Brogan, who is works for the DIA. He's I guess the most elite, most capable sniper there is. The opening sequence shows him shooting hitman, but it was specifically a sniper, shooting a guy through a moving train at 1,000,000 yards away. Pretty ridiculous, but it's an effective scene. And something happens with his handlers and the higher ups behind the scenes, and now they want him dead. So long story short, they end up sending an assassin after him who happens to look exactly like him. So, do you want me to keep going? Or
Go for it.
Anyways, I guess we're just going to spoil the...
Dude, this review's coming out the day of the movie. I mean, the movie's already out. They're blocked it for some reason, so...
So, the reason the assassin looks exactly like him is because it is his clone. It's about a 20-year younger version of himself. And Will Smith has to not only battle his younger self, but he also now has to try and convince the younger version to join forces with him to end up going after the bad guys. And Mary Elizabeth Winstead is the girl in the movie, and she joins forces as well. Kind of originally, unwittingly forced to tag along on his adventure, but then eventually joins his cause, as she is also a target simply by
association.
Yeah, association. She was originally just supposed to watch him and monitor his actions, but so it's a fairly simple premise. It's something you see a lot in action films. Even the clone part they've done before in things like Sixth Day, and I think we'd come up with several Soldier. They do things similar to that concept.
All the Van Dammes and all the other.
Van Damme has done several movies. So that setup is something that, especially the first 30 minutes, I think we both agreed that it works very well. It's a solid action feel. It's very much a James Bond ripoff, basically. That the globetrotting, he's going from one exotic location to another, and evading people, battling people, and it's effective. I enjoyed it. So the part where it loses me is when they introduce the idea that it is his clone that's it's the assassin that's come after him. For me, I would have much preferred if it was simply no sci-fi to it, and it was, let's say, his younger brother or something like that. But the reveal that it is a true clone, the way they've shown the science, I didn't buy into at all. The way they've shown the CG was very difficult for me to adapt to and get into. It's not that it's necessarily sloppy CG, but it's a rougher version of say, Alita, the Battle Angel.
Alita's fire.
Yeah, that they made that character look completely real as far as in her environment. I bought into it immediately. With this one, the initial shots of it, I was like, the CG's a little off, and the farther it goes, maybe it becomes a little easier. But I kept noticing numerous segments where I just thought, what's going on? What is the uncanny valley or something? I don't know. It just didn't seem right. The CG didn't fit, and I'm not sure exactly what technology they used here. One of our fellow critics, Brent, had mentioned that it was a completely different actor that they just CG'd over the top of him, I think is what they were saying. But I'm not sure exactly what they did, but it was weird.
I would compare it to like if you play Call of Duty, and how they have the actor in Call of Duty. They have the ball, all the different CG things, and they do all the scenes. Like if you're playing Call of Duty and you see like a character run by, and it's a CG copy of another person doing those moves, it looked more like that than real. It was.
The unfortunate thing is that so many of the action sequences were competent and fairly well done. They did. There's a sequence early on where they're battling in a kind of a mansion, and there's staircases, and they're doing some interesting things with action. They're tossing grenades around, batting them back and forth.
Pretty dope.
Yeah, very, very interesting, and it's all done with practical, realistic look. And then there's a motorcycle fight. It starts as like a kind of a cool motorcycle chase and ends with them basically like jousting on motorcycles almost. And it's so heavy CG. It's so silly. It just make it. I was just like, why do they have to do things like that?
So I liked that scene. So basically, I let him kind of go for a minute and try to be patient, and we're on the same page. But again, the main scene we're talking about right now, about 30 minutes in, is when he meets his clone for the first time, and there's like a gigantic scene, and there's a part where old Will Smith throws a grenade off a wall, and then the dude shoots the grenade, and it goes back at him. Really cool. Showing that they both very hand-eye. The reason that they cloned Will Smith is because he is the best killer. By far, he is the best hitman there is. So they cloned him because of his traits that make him a good killer. And of course, they train the kid through birth and all that to be a killer. But they get to the scene where they're fighting through the house and they're running around all this, and then they get on some motorcycles. And that's when you, like you said, really see the problem with the CG of Will Smith's younger self. It's bad. And then the other problem is he's younger and they speed him up. So his movements and things, I mean, it's really cool. It's like watching G.I. Joe or something with Snake Eyes doing all this crazy stuff, but like at 0.5 speed faster. So it looks fluid, but it's too fast. So it's a blur.
At the point where they replace the human and make it a CG character fighting Will Smith, that's like where it doesn't look good anymore. And
it's amazing in this time of age, and they do it right.
That's why something like, and I hate to bring up other movies, but like John Wick, where it's all in camera, they're actually trained the people to fight hand-to-hand combat. Those things are, for me, a little more impressive than simply digitally doing it all.
Now, even if they did do these scenes like John Wick in there, they would make it dark so that you couldn't see the alternate fighter or character, and they would have their wrestle moves and stuff. But whenever they introduced the younger version, he was just sped up. You could tell, and it didn't look right.
Well, even at the end, there's a sequence where the super soldier parkour guy comes after him, and he's bouncing off the walls like Spider-Man, and it doesn't look real at all.
So I thought that was dope, though.
It's kind of cool, but at the same time,
it's totally unrealistic.
Visually, it doesn't match the rest of it. It's a different style. But I don't know if you want to keep going with what you were going with.
I forgot.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. We were talking on the way about... go ahead, I forgot.
Well, for me, the biggest hurdle is the portrayal of the cloning in this and the science behind it.
Okay, before he begins, I'm going to just stop him really fast. Here's the issue. He is a twin. So, his brother is identical to him, okay? So, he, in his head, and his theories are right, okay? I'm just saying this now. A clone is like a twin. They're identical, okay? So, even though it's a clone of one person, it's almost the same as being a twin. I'll just start that off and let him go.
Well, I will tell you that I am an identical twin, and that is a clone. That is that is what that is. It is the clone. Okay. So now that doesn't make me a scientist. That doesn't make me an expert in cloning. However, the film does not convince me that the way they're portraying the cloning and the traits that they receive, the skills. And this is why. So the original Will Smith happens to be the greatest sniper of all time or whatever. when they create well, but it's
he did a sniper scene, but he's obviously a killer.
He's obviously okay. But here's the thing: when you create a clone, and they're not showing it like a cloned plant where you cut off one and you've got a duplicate adult. They're doing it as you're starting in a test tube and you're, merging the egg and everything, and you're raising it from a child. So at that point, I no longer buy into that the new version is going to have the exact same skills or even similar skills to the original Will Smith. Now, something like being a good marksman, shooting, those things are learned traits. And so you can teach somebody how to do that. So it seems to me silly to start with. But I'll just give one more example. If you were to clone Van Gogh, and we had mentioned this before, would his clone be able to paint in the same way? Would he have the same skill and the same talent? I don't believe so. Now, so that's why this for me, the science didn't work at all in this film, because that's what they're trying to say, is that if you clone Will Smith, this elite assassin, that his clone, raised in a completely different environment, in a completely different setting, different people even, is going to have the exact same skill.
Well, okay. So now there are some parts that I'll agree with him, but not on this part, because I'll bring it up and we'll both agree. Trust me. He has the reason why Will Smith is such a good killer is because his hand-eye coordination and a bunch of other things that genetically could pass as genetically you're going to get. Now, the kid was raised as a killer as well. He wasn't raised as this little guy serving ice cream. The clone of him was raised to be an elite killer, just like he was, because he had those traits and DNA in him of what could help you become a better killer than all the rest, because you're really fast, or you can see things far, or things work a certain way genetically. So I disagree with you there, because I think that's the only reason why they cloned him, because of his abilities, hand-eye, stuff like that, coordination. But where I have a problem with it is, and I still think it's up in the air in science of this, is when Will Smith is talking to his clone, trying to convince him that he's him, even though it's obvious they both look the same, he's saying, what about all those dreams you have? And what about that you're allergic to bees, which is a genetically passed thing. But like that you're still a virgin, or like different thoughts that someone would have. That's where I got lost a little bit in the movie, because why would he have the same exact thoughts raised in a different life?
Memories are something that I don't personally believe you can.
But that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're not talking about memories.
But what they also are doing are external factors, and the bee thing is a perfect example. The original Will Smith is allergic to to a bee sting. That is an external factor, and the clone would not also be allergic to bee stings necessarily.
It's in his DNA that he is allergic to bees.
I don't believe that's, because it's an external factor. If he was never stung by a bee, he would never be allergic to a bee. That's how allergies.
Well, his DNA is susceptible to the bee bite.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if the cloned version of Will Smith had never been stung by a bee, that he wouldn't be allergic to it. That's how allergies work, is you have to be introduced to it first. So the first time you're stung by a bee, no one ever has an adverse reaction like that. It's only the second time. So and any of those external factors that, their visual appearance and everything like that, that's where they, at that point they're no longer.
Here's where the problem lies, is that this is a movie, and it got crazy a little bit because he's a twin, and he's not looking at as he's trying to say, well, that doesn't make any sense. I'm a twin. This is how.
But this is a movie. The same could be said for something like Ad Astra. People don't buy into it because they think, oh, this seems weird that you can.
Well, the science is off.
The science seems off, and it has nothing to do with whether you know anything about astronomy or building a rocket or anything like that. It has to do with, do you believe it? Do they do a good job in portraying something that makes it believable? And this film didn't do that for me at all.
Well, I mean, I can get on board with them cloning a person, and 20 years later he's fighting himself.
Yeah,
get on board with that. It's a movie.
Okay.
But, the more we look into it and get away from an action movie, because this is an action movie, and say, "Oh, the science doesn't work," is when it starts to screw up the movie.
Well,
either way, the movie's screwed.
I'll give you one more example, like The Martian. That's a movie where if you ask real scientists, not everything works in that movie.
Of
but
course.
the general public, people that don't know extreme stuff about science, it was very easy to buy into that and just go with it and feel like it made sense. And even for me, it felt like everything they were showing me could be real.
But you're saying is you can't buy into the twin battling him.
I couldn't buy into the
Clone.
science of what they were showing with the cloning thing.
Okay. Well, I don't know if they really dove into the science of the clone. They just, a little bit. Manipulating DNA and stuff like that, that's later.
They portrayed it as if they were literally cutting clones from like a plant and doing adult to adult, but they specifically show they're growing children in a lab, basically.
They didn't show any of that, though.
No, but they said that's what they were doing.
Well, yeah, they said they took his DNA and when the sheep got cloned 20-some years ago, they actually were raising him all the way. So, I don't see how that's unbelievable, but
but there were things I did like about the film. I did like the more grounded in reality action sequences, some of the more creative fight sequences that happened earlier in the film.
Yeah, the beginning of the movie, first 30 minutes.
I'd say the first 30 minutes were pretty solid until
downhill from there.
Until they introduced sci-fi elements. But and also Mary Elizabeth Winstead, we both agreed
enjoyed that.
Was a highlight of the film. They made her a strong female character.
She's the girl in Cloverfield 2, or what's it called?
10 Cloverfield Lane.
She's the girl in that.
She was in that something versus the world. What was that?
Oh, that's right.
She plays the pink-haired girl.
Something versus the world. The guitar player, and they battle. I really liked her in that. She's
a great actress, and she's
grown up.
Yeah.
Like, she's taller, skinnier, and she does a really good job. Actually, she did a pretty good job as an action ninja girl, kind of.
Yeah.
It was believable.
It was very believable. Yeah, they made her a capable fighter.
Her part was good too. It wasn't like, I know this is kind of off the whole thing we're talking. Here's what I was telling Joel. Okay, on the way in, I was like, dude, this is gonna suck. And I was
can't go in like that.
Like, once he did Suicide Squad, I thought it was, and then I said, first Suicide Squad was the beginning, okay? Because this guy's a big name guy. He's $40 million movie guy. So, and then I told him, once they do a twin movie or a clone movie, that's the end of your career. That's marks the
cheesy
sign.
action movie.
To me, that's what I said. And then we got in, and the first 30 minutes, I'm like, oh, okay, this could be good. Like iRobot feel or something where this could be good. And then, so I was right, at least on my end. So I think he's on his way out. They're going to replace him with somebody else. So.
Well, I was surprised too because Benioff is was one of the creators of Game of Thrones, was the writer for this movie, and
he told me that at the end.
Yeah, and I thought, well, you can't do better than this.
I'm like, wow, he wrote all the Game of Thrones, and he did this. Yeah,
and Ang Lee is a capable director too. I'm not sure how much influence he had over this, but it's.
Yeah, it was all downhill after the motorcycle scene, but anyway, we're not going to dig into this too much. That's it. So I think it's poop. I'm not going to give it a number. Is there a number for poop? Well, number 2. I don't know. Maybe a 5. I'll give it a 5 out of 10.
For me, it's one of those movies that as I'm watching it, I'm slowly getting more and more disappointed. And I keep thinking that when the thoughts race through your head of, oh, how could they have made this better? As you're watching it, that's not a great sign. But it's also frustrating when they take something that starts fairly solid and you just, each scene that goes by, I think, oh, why did they do that? Why did they have to go that route? And yeah, so
they had a good idea, and that was all they had. It was a good idea, and whoever Game of Thrones, man. Ooh, man, damn. Shame.
Should have just remade.
Shame on you. That's what they do in Game of Thrones. You watch Game of Thrones?
Yeah, I've seen it.
All right. Anyway, Khaleesi's out here. 5 out of 10. Check out GoneWithTheTwins.com. I think we got another movie next week, or that Zombieland. Are we going to see that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Zombieland. That'll be sick. So we'll see you later. Hit that like button. Sub up if you're new. Check out GoneWithTheTwins.com, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Please check out and use all these different coupon codes available to you now. We have Exchange Collectibles, code ECON for 10% off. Comics Elite Comics, use code ECON5 for 5% off for the entire store. From Gemini Comic Supply, you can use code ECONOMICS10 for 10% off. And from Expert Grading Service, you can use code economics10 for 10% off. Also, if you like this channel, please hit that sub button, give me a like, and check out this video next. Have a good one and stay sick.